Welcome to the new Tullamore Farm video series. Over the next few weeks and months, we'll be bringing you some regular updates as to what's been happening on Tullamore Farm. Tullamore Farm is 200 acres, it's home to 85 suckler cows and 250 ewes. And the ethos here is to update farmers around the country on what's been happening on the farm on a weekly and monthly basis. Calving is a really busy time on the farm. It's just started on the 1st of February and preparation is key to a smooth calving season. Sean Diver is going to tell us how he has been preparing for this calving season over the last couple of months.
So preparation for calving, I suppose, really starts when your breeding season commences, and that would have started here on the farm. Around the 20th of April 2024. So at that point we would have our bull team for 2024 picked, and we picked those bulls based on how we want our cows to perform during the calving season, which is now. So we have to be very strategic in how we pick bulls for heifers compared to bulls that we pick for cows, and we'll be looking, I suppose, at different indexes or easy calving percentages of bulls, or calving difficulty percentage. We wouldn't use any bulls that would be more than 7.5% calving difficulty on heifers, whereas cows, we might push that up to maybe 10, 11% on with certain breeds. I suppose we also would have been preparing for calving when we weaned our calves last October. So after calves are weaned off of cows, we have to pick out cows that might be in a lower body condition than we would like. Some cows that reared calves for the first time, first calved heifers, may have lost more condition than mature cows. They would have to be separated, and they were separated last October and treated differently. Cows in a body condition of lower than 3.5 or back as far as 3 would have been fed the best quality silage that we had in the yard in order to try and build their body condition back up to about 3.5 at calving. So thankfully most of our mature cows do wean off in quite good condition. We try to mind our cows as best we can throughout the grazing season, keep good grass in front of them all the time. So a lot of the cows here would have come in a body condition of around 3.5, body condition score of 3.5. So really over the winter period, it would be to try and maintain body condition in them cows. We don't want them to build any more condition. We don't want cows calving down over fat into condition scores of 4 or 4.5. We want to keep cows on a maintenance diet, and that's quite easy to do with suckler cows. I suppose if they have relatively good silage, it should maintain them in a body condition up until the point of calving. 6 weeks pre-calving, we then, I suppose, look at the nutrition of the cow. At that stage, she's coming under a bit of pressure. The calves are getting big. There's a big demand on the body of the cow. So good silage introduced to the diet 6 weeks pre-calving, and we also introduced pre-calver minerals at that point. Very important to get a good quality pre-calver mineral into cows before they calve. I suppose that eliminates the issues around maybe cows with retained placentas. Slow calves, when they're born, calves will get up and suck. They're lively, hardy calves when the minerals are right and when the diet is right. And again, it just helps cows to be in good condition when it comes to calving. Cows are not lethargic, they lie down, push out calves, they're strong and they're healthy. In the few weeks, I suppose, before calving, or a few days before calving, we then look to try and get the cows out to straw bedding. So as cows start to spring up or get closer to calving, we turn them out to straw bedding here in the shed. That helps to dry up the hides of the cows, it cleans up their udders, and it gives them just that bit more comfort before they actually get into the calving process. And again, when the cows are in this shed for a week or 10 days before they calve, they're accustomed to the environment, nothing is strange, and when the cow actually decides to calve, or when she gets down to calving, stress levels are low because she's not in an environment that she hasn't previously been in. And again, it's just trying to keep cows clean, comfortable, happy and healthy in the run up to calving.
Some really good tips and advice there from Sean on how he has been preparing for calving over the last couple of months. But we're here in the calving shed, calving is happening, and I had a chat with Sean on what he wouldn't be without over the next couple of weeks in terms of the calving process. Okay, Sean, there's a few essentials that you need. We'll say any farm is no different in terms of what you need for calving. So we've got a few things in front of us. I suppose behind us, maybe first of all, facilities, really, really important. And you've got a good setup here behind us in terms of calving.
Yeah, look, facilities are, something that you really can't, especially a calving gate where you can restrain a cow for a hard calving. I suppose it keeps the cow safe and that, she's not getting stressed out, but it's also, it's a protection for yourself. The cow's restrained, you can do what you need to do, either calve a cow or put a calf sucking. That calving gate plays a huge role in a smooth calving season.
The next thing we're laying up against it here, and that's straw. And look at it, it's expensive this year. I don't know what it was here on the farm. Was it 30, 35?
25 euro a bale here.
Okay.
We're lucky compared to maybe some farms in the west, looking at 30 euro a bale.
But really important to use lots of it. Like you can't really skimp on this stuff around calving time.
No, in the preparation for calving, getting cows clean and bellies dry and elders clean, this is important. Look, it's dear at 25 euro a bale. Yes, you'll try and reduce the use of it as much as you can, but around calving time you really can't, because at the end of the day, at 25 euro it's dear, but it's cheaper than sick calves and antibiotics and stress.
And in terms of handling cows here, like what do you? What's your guide in terms of how long? Like we talk to vets sometimes and they talk about progress, and once a cow is making progress, leave her at it. What's the rule here in terms of what do you do?
Yeah, I suppose most farmers, and it's no more than ourselves here, we know our cows, mature cows are quite different to heifers. Mature cows will, they'll show strong signs of calving fairly early on, whereas heifers might take, they could be sick for maybe 2 or 3 hours before they really get down to the process of calving. I suppose the first thing really, Adam, and look, it's when that first water bag comes out, the cow is making progress at that stage. Everything's normal. And I suppose after she presents that, the second water bag, and if she's getting down, lying down and pushing, and especially, look, if the feet start to present, a mature cow at that stage, I would say let her work away as much as she can. And, look, 45 minutes to an hour is not long for a cow to be lying forcing after that water bag goes. But I suppose when you get over the hour mark, and maybe if feet are looking like they're a bit big, or a cow's getting tired, you'll know yourself at that stage to maybe it's time to just check her out and see what's happening.
Level of assistance here, what are you looking at in terms of going in with a jack, like in terms of jacking a calf out?
Yeah, so last calving season we had 87% of the cows in the farm calved unassisted. So look, we're using bulls that allow for relatively easy calving. We try and pick cows or heifers that are cows of ability to calve. But I suppose in terms of hard calvings, we wouldn't have all that many, but there is certain cows we have to assist. You'll get your couple of backways calves not presenting right, and look, there will be cows that just maybe are slow to calve, and you might be here, and maybe it's late at night, you want to go home and get to bed, and you'll assist the calving.
We'll just talk a bit about ropes. I suppose these have got really popular on farms in terms of rather than the white ropes, and you're a fan of these as well.
Yeah, they're nice soft ropes, and look, I suppose they're handy in the sense that they're different colours. When you're maybe in a bit of a panic and a cow's been calving a while and you're rushing maybe to get ropes on a calf and maybe a calf not presenting right, what I always do is put the red rope on the right foot of the calf and the blue rope in the left foot, and when you put them on the jack, then at least you're not pulling a calf with feet crossed.
We'll talk about some of the more items here in terms of, you've got some chlorhexidine here. Why not iodine now? That's a different maybe product, so why are you using that? Yeah,
we changed chlorhexidine a few years ago. We just found that it was drying up the navels that bit quicker, and cows were less inclined to lick it off. It probably doesn't have as pleasing a taste to the cow, so less chance of a cow licking the navel. Now, for years we used iodine. We can't say we had any issues, but this is something that the vet offered to us back a few years ago, and we took it on, and it's worked really well.
You've also got your lube here in terms of, it's just standard lube, but if you're going in to handle a cow, you're using lots of that.
Yeah, plenty of that. When you're handling a cow, she's probably a cow that's been calving quite a while at that stage, and as a cow's calving, she's starting to lose fluids, things can dry up, and it makes it harder maybe to get legs up or a head into the right position, but plenty of that on the glove when you're going in, and it's easier to work that calf inside the cow. You
mentioned gloves, you're a big fan of them as well, so you're not handling a cow unless you've gloves on here.
Yeah, look, it keeps the cow, protects the cow from disease or any bacteria or disease getting into the cow, but it also protects the farmer as well. There's certain things that we can pick up from handling cows, maybe diseases like leptospirosis. Gloves help to protect farmers as well as the cow.
You've covered the diet already in terms of the pre-calving diet, but you've got some frozen colostrum here. Tell me a bit about the instance as to where you use that.
Yeah, so look, we have a rule on the farm really, if a cow is handled, if the calf is assisted at all, that we either physically put the calf sucking after it's born, or we milk the cow and stomach tube the calf. Look, all intentions be good all the time that you're going to milk the cow and stomach tube the calf with her own milk, but again, could be late at night, hard calving, maybe the cow's unsettled, she doesn't want to let you handle her. We keep a store of frozen colostrum on the farm. We get this off a neighbouring dairy farmer. Now, he has the same vet as us. We know the herd is ionase free. He's got a good bill of health on that herd.
Because there is a risk with that as who's bringing it in, isn't there? But you know the health status of that herd.
So look, it's important to maybe know that the farmer is, I suppose, up to date with vaccines in terms of maybe, lepto, and that there's no ionase disease in the herd. And look, this is for emergency uses really. In an ideal world, you always use the colostrum unique to your own farm. But again, this is really, really handy, and it'll get you out of a lot of trouble if you have maybe 3 or 4 litres of this in the freezer at all times. And
you'd rather use that than the powdered products out there or stuff like that? You rather use the real thing?
Yeah, look, we try and use the real thing if we can. Again, look, there might be times you're stuck. There is artificial alternatives out there. They'll keep a calf going until the morning until maybe you get a bit of colostrum from a cow. Or
final thing is stomach tube, and you've got one of these with a rigid, we'll say, tube on it. Some of them will say have a flexible tube there as that part. But in terms of stomach tubing, what's the rule around that in terms of how much and when?
Yeah, so look, we generally work off, if you're going to stomach tube a calf or get colostrum into a calf, you work off sort of a 3-2-1 rule, and it's 3 litres of colostrum 2 hours after birth in one feed. So this tube holds 3 litres. Look, most suckler cows, if you milk them, you're probably only going to get 2 litres of colostrum from a suckler. That's fine, it's good quality colostrum. We prefer this stomach tube in that there's less chance maybe of the tube going wrong and going down into the lungs of a calf. It's quite hard and rigid, so when it's in the esophagus, it goes straight down to where it's supposed to be. Again, keep this clean, don't go from one calf to another. And in some cases, maybe a calf with scour and you're putting lactates in, you should keep a separate stomach tube for sick calves or problem calves, because you don't want to cross-contaminate from healthy calves to sick calves.
Hey William.
Morning.
How's it going?
Grand.
Your favourite?
Thank you.
All right.
Go on. I wonder what is happening on the beef trade this week.
We travel the length and breadth of the country every week to get the most up-to-date prices that you can only find in the Irish Farmers Journal.
We bring our team into your home every week. Get the Irish Farmers Journal delivered to you every Thursday.
Okay, so we're coming into peak calving season. How has it been going, I will say, so far, and we'll say how many's calved?
Yeah, we're going quite well. We have 27 calves at the moment. We would have synchronised heifers back in April to fixed time AI. So we had 17 heifers all due in one day. They've all calved at this stage, and we have 10 mature cows calved as well. We're expecting them to ramp up over the next week or 10 days. Mature cows are probably carrying that a little bit longer with calves, so they're really going to take off now.
Sex semen, was it true to its name? Have you heifer calves?
Yeah, really happy actually. We've had, I think there's 28 calves, one set of twins, 28 calves, and I think we have 6 bull calves born so far. That's not all sex semen now. We've been lucky as well. Some of them have been conventional straws that have thrown heifer calves, but in terms of every cow that got a sex straw so far has had a heifer calf. So.
And in terms of assistance, I know you'd one bit of an, I think with a heifer, was it like a calf maybe stuck on the hips? But other than that, what have you had?
Yeah, we hadn't had much bother really. Look, we with those 17 heifers, you'd expect to assist heifers a little bit more. We've probably pulled 3 calves from heifers. In terms of mature cows, we haven't handled any of them so far. 10 of them calved. We had one section with a heifer, probably not hugely down to the heifer's fault. The calf was presented wrong. The calf was actually coming upside down. She'd been calving quite a while. We handled her. By the time we turned the calf, obviously the calving process hadn't progressed naturally, so she wasn't opened up. We were just nervous around pulling the calf at that stage because the heifer was quite tired and she wasn't opened. Called the vet, done a section. She recovered really well from that. Live calf, live cow.
In terms of colostrum and milk, how have they been going in terms of calving down?
Yeah, quite well. You'd always be wary of heifers calving down. Will they have enough milk? But we're feeding a small bit of meal to them about the week or 10 days in the run up to calving, along with their minerals. So heifers will get maybe a kilo of meal that week before calving, just to try and increase the quality and quantity of colostrum. Cows get a small bit of meal, about half a kilo, in the week or 10 days before calving as well.
And then after calving, are you keeping the meal in there, or is the silage quality good enough?
It's good enough for the cows. Mature cows just go on silage only. The few days after the calve, we'll always give cows a bit of meal. That's just from a herding point of view, make sure cows are going on, they're healthy after calving. With the heifers that are on 1.5 kilos of meal, along with good quality silage, just try and keep conditioning those first calved heifers, they're young heifers.
A nice deep dive there into some of the essentials that Sean Diver uses here on the farm for a smooth calving season. Facilities is a big part of that, and Martin Merrick discusses some of the changes made to the calving shed here on Tullamore Farm.
So I'm in one of the 2 sheds that we use on the farm. This has been the main calving shed. We've a mixture of individual calving pens and loose bedded accommodation as well. So what generally happens is, as cows become close to calving, Sean will divert them into the loose bedded pens here on my left hand side. And from there then the cows will calve down. Sean will put them across onto the right hand side here into the individual boxes. We have 3 individual boxes here. And cows will be allowed to bond with the calves for several days before being transferred back into the loose bedded accommodation. And then eventually they will go up into the slatted house, the new slatted shed that was built in 2022. When in the new slatted shed, the calves will have access to the creep area where Sean has a deep straw bed in place for the calves while the cows remain on the slats. Calves have full access to the cows 24/7. Some of the updates that we've done here to the calving shed on the Tullamore Farm. The RSJs in this, the upright RSJs behind me, the older ones were rotted through and they needed replacement. So a project that Sean undertook this year was replacement of those. How it was done was the old RSJs were taken out, but before that a new shorter RSJ was placed inside the pen to support the beam going across the shed. They then cut down the old girder. They dug down, the initial plan was to dig right down and remove the old girder, but after going down 18 inches, there was still some of the old girder in place, but this was a solid steel. It was good enough to weld onto. So that's exactly what they done. They welded on the new RSJ onto the older RSJ, removed the inner girder and repeated the process a further 2 times then. The total cost of the supply and replacement of these girders, including labour, was €1,900 plus VAT. Along with the replacement of the girders, 3 new barriers were also installed, 2 fixed barriers and 1 swinging barrier here behind me. The cost of the fixed barriers was €260 plus VAT, and this swinging barrier was €460 plus VAT. As sheds become older, such as this one, there will be more and more internal girders, especially that are exposed to dung and urine, that will have rotted away, and replacement will be needed for health and safety reasons. So Sean, we're here in what we call the new shed in Tullamore Farm. You tell us a little bit more about it and how you use the shed for calving and throughout the year then.
Yeah, so we built the shed in 2022. We were a bit tight for space beforehand. We didn't really have much access to creep areas after cows were calving. So we built this shed and we put in a 25-foot lie-back area or creep area for calves. The cows, after they calve, they come back up the slats, and they're locked in on the slats then, feed on the slats, and the calves have access then to creep areas after that. Look, it's a versatile shed as well, and we thought maybe about the lie-back could aid maybe in finishing cattle in the future if we're going to fatten bulls, or we're continue fattening bulls or that. The lie-back could be used for that as well. So we tried to make the shed versatile, as versatile as we could.
So whenever we've had groups here, Sean, on the farm and they've seen the shed and that, they think it's quite open and exposed. How was your experience with it? Like, have you had any issues with drafts or calves getting a chill, or do you think it could be more open even?
Well, no, look, I suppose when we were starting out to build the shed, we said that we'd leave it quite open from the start, and that if needs be, we could always close the shed in a little bit more. You know, it's not easy maybe to open the shed up after you close it in, but it's easy maybe to up sheets after if you needs be. But the prevailing wind comes from the southwest, and I suppose that's fairly well sheltered from that side by the rest of the sheds in the yard. The lie-back area is on the, I suppose, facing east. The biggest problem we might see is that if an east wind comes, but we normally stack some straw bales along the barrier here to shelter the young calves. On the lie-back, we have thought about maybe putting in some windbreakers on this side, but we're getting away not too bad at the moment. I suppose, look, we've had no issues with sick calves, no pneumonia. It's not a drafty shed, it's quite open, it's airy, there's never, I suppose, dull air in it. But the draft or the airflow is coming in over the top of the cattle and out. We don't have any low drafts coming in calves, and I suppose that's the secret to maybe keeping the calves healthy.
Talking about bedding, Sean, straw is kind of a contentious enough topic the last couple of years. It's been scarce, it's been dear. How do you use straw on Tullamore Farm? How do you try and reduce your usage, or have you used alternative beddings in the past?
Yeah, so the calving shed below is one example where we've used alternative bedding. Usually every year before we start calving, we put in about 6 inches of sawdust, and then we put straw on top of that. And we found what the sawdust actually does, it helps to reduce the usage of straw, and if there's a soakage underneath the straw, the urine and the dung, I suppose, will go down and soak into the sawdust, and it helps to protect the actual straw bedding. In the past, we've used peat bedding, but look, I suppose maybe from a sustainability point of view, peat is maybe not that sustainable. So look, we look towards using something more renewable, and sawdust is working quite well for us, and it works out pretty much the same price as peat bedding. And saying that, straw has become harder to get in the last few years, so this shed plays a key role in saving straw as well, and that the cows now go back on slats, they feed on the slats. It's very hard to keep cows bedded on straw when they have calves on them, especially if they're feeding on the straw. So this shed is quite easy to keep bedded because it's only young, light stock that's on the straw bedding end of it. So,
going back to the individual calving pens then itself, Sean, how often are they cleaned out? What's the protocol with disinfection and such with those? And how long do cows and calves typically get in an individual box then to bond?
Yeah, so we have 3 individual boxes below in the other shed. We generally clean them out after we have about 15 cows calves. So every 15 cows maybe they go through. Not all them cows might have spent time in them individual boxes. Some of the cows calve out on the loose area. A cow that calves out there and the calf sucks, she's a mature cow, she just stays out there. She doesn't need to come to the individual pen. But generally every 15 to 16 cows we'll just take out the straw that's in the individual pens. We'll disinfect them down with a bit of hydrated lime. Pre-calving, the whole shed was power washed down from roof sheetings, or side sheetings, the whole way down, and disinfected to try and reduce the disease burden or eliminate any bad bacteria that was in the shed. So clean them out after every 15 cows and disinfect with hydrated lime.
The calving cameras then, Sean, you have one here in this shed and one below in the other calving shed. How important are they when it comes to monitoring cows? You live off farm, of course. You know, what kind of a role do they play like?
Yeah, look, cameras have really revolutionised, I suppose, calving cows, because look, I can watch the cows 24/7. We've had cameras here since the get-go. Couldn't calve cows without them. We had a little issue with the cameras the first week of calving there, and you know, it was quite a drag. It was quite painful coming over and back at night to check cows, and you don't mind coming over to check cows when there's something calving and there's something going on, but when you're coming over and nothing going on and over and back, you know, you're losing sleep. At least with the camera, you're going to set the alarm for the middle of the night, wake up, check the shed, and if you have to get up, you have to get up. If you don't, you know, nothing lost.
A good look there at some of the improvements and essential maintenance carried out to the calving shed here on Tullamore Farm. Even with the best preparations, things can go wrong, and this farm is no different, and things go wrong on this farm. I had a chat with Sean Diver about a case of milk fever that took place last week. Okay, we've talked a little bit about preparation, and even with the best preparation, things can and will go wrong, and they go wrong on this farm too. Tell me a little bit about the case of milk fever you had last week.
Yeah, so last Sunday we had a cow calve Saturday evening. She was good, calve up and sucked, cow clean, she was eating. I came in here Sunday morning, herding through the stock, put the calves up, all healthy. Cow was sitting head up, she looked bright, went to put the cow up, she just couldn't get up. She was down with milk fever. She's a first cross cow, quite a milky type cow. And
so they're more prone to that, are they, in terms
of? They would be. The closer they are to the freezing, I suppose, the more milky the cow, the more demand she has, maybe for calcium. And again, she was an older cow, that puts her a bit more susceptible to getting milk fever as well. So, look, it was a Sunday here, so we called the vet. Vet came down, put a bottle of calcium into the vein intravenously, and also gave her magnesium under the skin. She didn't get up within the first 3 or 4 hours. So I myself then put a bottle of calcium into her, and then after an hour or so she was back up on her feet again. But look, it's just something that you'd hope not to see a lot of because we're using quite a high spec calving mineral. But again, it comes back to preparation. We do a mineral analysis of our silage, and what we actually see in our when we look into our mineral analysis of the forage, that our magnesium and calcium levels in our silage are at normal levels and almost above levels, but the potash level in our silage is quite high. So what that is actually doing is restricting the amount of magnesium that the cow can take up in her rumen, and then it can cause cases like milk fever or even worse, grass tetany. Again, we would have been counteracting that by feeding a higher level of mineral than we thought we would have needed, but given we had a case last week, we've increased the pre-calving mineral by another 20 grams per head per day.
And is there anything else you can do to prevent further cases?
Not really. I mean, if it was something that was becoming a huge problem, we had a lot of cases, you could look at going down the route maybe of calcium boluses, maybe putting something into the water. But look, it's an isolated case at the moment. If we have another case, you know, we need to go back and talk to our vet and see what can we do here.
And it's generally not a problem in suckler cows because milk yield isn't huge in suckler cows.
It's not, I suppose, down cows are not a problem in suckler hares, but what we will see and what we have seen in the past here is we've had cases of subclinical milk fever, and that's actually cows that don't go down with milk fever, don't show the typical signs, but they're very slow to calve. And we had that here last year, and we actually lost a calf over a cow that was calving but wasn't showing the normal signs. We pulled a dead calf, and that triggered something in us to say something not right here. We took blood samples from cows, and the cows were all showing low in magnesium and calcium. And again, that was subclinical milk fever. Cows weren't actually showing the signs, but were too slow to calve, and we were pulling calves we thought we shouldn't have to pull. So maybe that's more of a sign in suckler herds. It's that subclinical cows slow to calve.
Some really good advice there on how to avoid milk fever on your farm. We've had a look at preparing for calving, the essentials for a smooth calving season, what can go wrong, and also some of the maintenance carried out on the calving shed here ahead of the calving season. As always, if you'd like to keep up to date with what's been happening on Tullamore Farm, you can check out our weekly articles on farmersjournal.ie or pick up a copy of the paper out every Thursday. We'll be back here next month where we'll be focusing on all things lambing.